So Michelle, we're doing this live today to highlight some of the things going on with the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, the potential impact on not only home educators but other families as well, and looking at what could be a helpful way to approach it. What are some constructive things that we could be doing, um, and even looking at what we could do in the future to mitigate the impact of this bill if it passes as is. So I'm just wanting to check that everything is okay on my live streams here. Just give me a minute. That everyone is seeing us, because I'm not tech wizard. And okay, so we're live on Facebook. That's fine. I'm just checking YouTube. I don't know if YouTube might just be a little bit behind, might be a little delayed. So it's not sort of showing us yet, which is quite a big delay, really. But let me, I'll also check our settings. So the people that we're going to be live until 5 p.m. today. The people who will be in this live stream today are all connected to home education in some way. They are either active home educators or previous home educators or researchers, and bringing different perspectives. My name is Juliet English. I have been home educating for a very long time, since 1998. I have finally got my youngest child now into university, but I remain passionate about home education, its benefits for children, its benefits for family, and it's not something that I can just walk away from and say I'm done and I don't have any say anymore, because I think that sometimes as more veteran home educators, you perhaps, and I've got to say this carefully, you perhaps have a little more time on your hands. Um, I won't say I do, but you you're able to kind of do what you can to try and help those that come behind you. So that's why I'm still involved with home education, although I have other interests as well. And I home educated 7 children. I have a background in social work. Uh, and I'm engaged in a bunch of different home educating sort of initiatives, and in supporting home educators out there. So, Michelle, would you like to just tell us a bit about yourself, because we will be your hosts for today?
Hi, yeah, so I'm Michelle Zahia. Obviously you'll recognise me from the Friday lives we do here from the Alliance. I'm also the person leading the Stop the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill page. So most of the time I have got a small team behind me that assist and are amazing, but most of the time if you've got replies on there, it's probably me. I'm also a current home educator. I've been home educating over 6 years now. I've got a teenager who's definitely a teenager, but is happily home educated, which is why I've taken such a big interest, because I want him to have the right to be home educate his own children if he chooses to have children, which is why I've took such a big interest. I'm also one of the co-owners of Educational Freedom, which is one of the home ed information and support organisations. I'm also, in my other life, do some immigration stuff and do lots of sendis tribunals, supporting families, representing families in the sendis tribunals. So I wear a lot of hats. But obviously here today, we're quite focused on what we want our discussion to be about. So I'm firmly home education hat today. So that's where I am today. That's the hat for today.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and I'm really appreciating you joining me today. I am also going to make you a co-host in the Zoom that we're in, because my poor computer is like really just fed up with all the stuff I put it through in the name of home education, and I don't really trust that things. Yeah, I want to be careful. You just make sure that if things don't go smoothly, that it's picked up. The video, the live stream is not impacted. So we are live this morning on Facebook, on the Home Education Alliance events page, and we're also live on the Home Education channel on YouTube. So this means that you can come back to this video again and watch it afterwards. It will remain available. Now, Michelle, like I feel very troubled today. I feel very burdened and heavy because we've got the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, which we've scrutinized. Many people have scrutinized. Many people are saying this is going to undermine the rights of children. It's going to undermine the rights of parents. It damages relationships between home educators and local authorities and schools, probably too. Um, it's a bit of a power grab. There's state overreach. There's a lot of things that we've been trying to highlight, not only to the home educating community but to families in general, because um, the rights that they kind of want to undermine that pertain kind of to home education are something that could apply to other families that are not home educating, or if they want to home educate in the future, they will be impacted by this. And of course, we're deeply troubled. But this week, we've had a real gut punch where Baroness Smith of Melbourne, she's now added all the government's amendments. And contrary, we've had loads of conversations. They've said they're listening. We've many people are trying to have conversations with Lords, with MPs, and everyone's, oh, we're listening, we're listening. And what do? Instead of going and softening some of the aspects of the bill, they've said, no, actually, this is not going far enough. We need to make it even more draconian. And there's a definite tone that comes through of the things that they want to do that are saying, listen, we don't trust parents, and actually we think we should have more and more oversight. We're not going far enough. So we want to start off this morning because this happened this week. We're still planning to cover some of the topics today, but because this happened this week, we are putting out the alarm to particularly the home educating community that you really need to go and see what's happening with these amendments, because they are going to make this bill so much worse, and they are going to continue to take it in a direction that's going to be more constricting of home education.
Yeah. And I think people need to remember it's a wider context as well of there appears to be a we don't trust parents bit. So even the whispers of the white paper of the send bit, the whispers are that rather than parents having the thing, the schools can make the decisions. We don't need those parents making the decisions. And then in this one, the new bits added, well, at the moment you've got deregistration on demand. Well, up to 30%, we'll have a nice pilot where you cannot take your child out of school till you've met with the local authority. And it says the parent has to attend and participate. And the child should be present unless there's a reasonable excuse for them not to be present, which means in the majority of cases, they're now expecting before you can take your child out, for you to meet the LA with your child, and the LA is going to explain to you your responsibilities as a parent if you home educate. And we know they get that wrong all the time at the moment. The amount of letters just from our casework, we know they get it wrong all the time. And they're going to make sure that you know what you're going to be doing. They might give you a little bit of advice on exams if it's reasonable to do so. And the school cannot take your child's name off the roll until the LA goes back to them and says, yes, this parent has participated. Which is a complete climate change there. That's a complete lack of trust that you know what you're doing. That's literally sort of saying, well, we know you say you want to do that, but no, we don't think you really know what you're doing. We need to tell you what we want, which also we know that there are certain LAs who do try already to tell parents how they're supposed to home educate, and that may not necessarily be the most suitable style for their family. And so it's a we distrust your decision. We will now have a discussion with you about how you should implement your decision. And only then, if we're happy, we will let you do it. So it is a whole bit of this whole trust thing. And if actually you are one of the cohort of the forced home educator bits, when you're at that point, you're already at crisis. The last thing you want to be doing is bringing your child into a meeting with the people who've been failing you consistently to the point you're at crisis, and they're the ones that then confirm that you did participate.
So,
So
Michelle,
it is a,
sorry,
yeah, sorry.
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you mid-flow, but we're going to have Fiona Nicholson joining us shortly. But before she comes in, I want us to quickly have a look, talk about what is the current situation for home educators. Is that working? Um, are there things that could be improved? You know, what is the current basis for the laws that we have right now?
Well, the current basis is we accept the primacy of the parent, that it is the parent. So we've got this bit of law called Section 7 of the Education Act, and it's the parent's responsibility to ensure that their child receives efficient full-time education suitable to their age, ability, aptitude, and then any SEN or ALN, depending on what's relevant, either by school or education otherwise. Now, so it's your choice as a parent if you enroll your child at a school, or if you want your child at a school but your child is unable to go, under international law, the government has to ensure there is an educational offer. So you can then, if you want your child in school but school's not appropriate, the LA have to give you an offer. But if actually no, you want to home educate or you want to use a private school, then that's your choice as well. So it's purely your choice as a parent, as long as you are ensuring your child is receiving the education. There's already loads of mechanisms if you don't. So if you're, as long as you're a good parent and you are making sure your child is getting their education, there's nothing to see here. You're left alone. The state only interferes if there's something wrong. Now, we're still subject to all the same safeguarding rules as everyone else. So if something gets flagged to social services, quite often that's a shopkeeper or a neighbour who doesn't understand why children might not be in school during school hours. They absolutely still have to investigate that. That's their role. And if it's, benign, then they'll close it quite quickly because it's okay, they just didn't understand home education. So there's already mechanisms. Obviously, if it isn't benign, then they'll do the normal processes. Now, if it's purely on the education bit at the moment, the local authority, they have a duty to establish children who are not receiving a suitable education. So if they think your child might be missing education, they can do an informal inquiry. They can sort of say to you, your child's not in school. How are they getting their education? What's going on? And it's prudent to respond, because there's already stuff that says if you don't respond, the LA can go, they didn't respond, right, in that case it means they aren't, and they can escalate. So it's always a good idea to respond. You can choose not to, but they will escalate. If you respond and they're not happy with how you responded, they're like, yeah, I don't think that is a full-time education. That doesn't sound very suitable. It sounds like it's not fitting with what you've described for the child. There's not enough detail there. They should come and tell you their concerns and say, yeah, we didn't think what you told us was sufficient. We think your child's not getting suitable education. These are our concerns. Now, if you don't address them, they'll issue what's called a Section 4371 notice, or also known as a preliminary notice. And in the new bill, it's preliminary notice they use because Section 4371's going and the new system's coming in. And the Section 4371 notice, there's a threshold. The threshold's quite low. It's if it appears to the local authority your child might not be receiving a suitable education. So not your child is not receiving, it's if it appears to them. So that's, it can be not quite sure. And that
And
gives you 15 days to tell them, actually,
and
no.
is this working at the moment, the system?
It depends on the LA. It really
Mm.
does. So some local authorities, it's working fantastically because they actually seem to understand home education and they seem to understand the nuances. They understand there's lots of different styles. They understand the education suitable to the child, not to what you would be doing equivalent in school, because you may not be following school at home. There's many other styles that may be the one suitable for your child. In some local authorities, they're using it as a compliance tool. So unless you do as the local authority says, you will be escalated through the system. So I know there'll be people who are, if they're in one of 3 local authorities, will be familiar with compliance and threatening letters because the local authority uses it as a compliance tool rather than genuinely is the education suitable for the child.
Yeah.
Some local authorities haven't got enough staff to actually be able to engage with the home educators. So it may or may not be. But again, that's not the home educator's fault. That's a resourcing on the local authority part for not enough staff to inquire when they want to inquire. And so, that's not a parent issue, that's a local authority issue. So it's a very mixed bag across the country at the moment, but it's not because the law isn't good, it's the implementation,
And
as so
I
many of
feel
these
that the
things
law
are.
is, yeah, I feel that the law is quite balanced actually, because it
Mm.
still allows for all of these things. And Fiona's just joined us.